Not the greatest movie out there, but a sequel would have been interesting. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Released in July of 2003, with a runtime of 1 hour and 52 minutes, and directed by Stephen Norrington. I believe he directed Blade as well. Starring Sean Connery, Peter Wilson, Tony Curran, Stuart Townsend, Shane West, Jason Fleming, Richard Roxburgh, and Mr. Shah. Production budget of $78 million. Weird number. Wouldn't you just round it up to 80? A domestic take of $66 million. A foreign take of $112 million, giving them a worldwide take of $179 million, and a profit of $101 million. Characters. Now, keep in mind, I don't know a whole lot about many of these characters, so my perspective of them is going to be basically what I saw in the movie. Start with Quatermain, the great and famous hunter living in Africa, always available for Queen and Country. Somewhere between Indiana Jones and James Bond, from what I understand. Burnt out, worn out, tired, and generally over it version of Quatermain. He's lost his wife, he's lost his son, he's lost interest in serving Queen and Country, and would really prefer to just wash his hands of the whole lot of it. Quatermain is in this movie mainly as your mentor, your wise and old instructor, to help along other characters and basically navigate as team leader. I'm sure my dad is quite upset that I don't know who Quatermain actually is. That will not impress him. Captain Nemo. He is the man in charge of the Nautilus, the submarine that runs around the world. The Nautilus is a technological marvel of the time. In fact, it's a technological marvel of our time, really. It's quite impressive. I really liked his ship, and I really liked his captaining style. The fact that he's not afraid to get in there with his swords and get very involved in the fighting and the action and the adventure, and not just be the captain who stays on his vessel. I liked it. Very cool character, very cool concept, very, very well presented and displayed. Mina Harker, the vampire. I have no idea why she's in this movie. I have no idea about the Harkers. I've got no idea what's happening here. I know there's a loose connection to Van Helsing, and I don't understand it at all. Having said that, I really like her character. Would probably be a really nice person if she wasn't also a bloodthirsty mistress of the night. And that's the side that's really quite exciting, and they don't show it too often. It's like when Bruce Banner turns into the Hulk. It's the party trick. It's the exciting moment. Now we have Skinner, the Invisible Man. Very cool character. Love his accent, love the way he delivers, love his attitude, his whole presentation. When he makes himself visible, it's very cool. When he's invisible, and just the way they used that, also very good. Very fun support character. Part of the main crew, part of the main group, but definitely support. But very good value support. Dorian Gray. Now, what little I know about Dorian Gray has been displayed, from what I understand, quite well in this movie. Very suave, very stylish, very, very much not a nice person. He's very, very self-centered, but then again, he's the only person that's constant in his life. His very, very long and enhanced life. So that's kind of understandable. A good character, well-developed, well-done character. I have no idea if this is accurate to the character of the books, but I like what they've done with him. Tom Sawyer. Didn't expect that. Wasn't expecting that. Tom Sawyer, the secret agent for the US government. He is your wild card. He's the unexpected character to the team. No one expected him to be there. He kind of just invited himself. It worked. His character worked. His character wasn't annoying. I thought he was going to be irritating, but I was wrong. He was a clever and useful character in the story. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the two characters I am most familiar with in this movie, and it's a pretty good take on them, I suppose. I liked the Doctor, and I liked Mr. Hyde. Neither of them were good people, again, but I enjoyed their presentation. I enjoyed the way they were brought onto screen. And then we have M. I mean, why not? We've name-dropped nearly everyone else. Let's bring a bit of Bond into this. So yes, we have M, and he's the good guy, bad guy, all-around pain-in-the-neck guy. He's quite a good foil to the rest of the team. I enjoyed what they did with him, particularly what they did with the name M, or what M stands for, as you find out at the end of the movie. Also clever. Very clever. Overall, for characters, I really quite enjoyed them. They're either damaged or have a darkness about them. None of them are actually the good guy. I mean, apart from Tom Sawyer. He's just Tom Sawyer. Yeah, characters, I'm going to go ahead and give characters a 3. There's no detractions. No one really annoys you. Nothing reaches great heights. They're not outstanding characters. They're good and they do everything they need to do in the movie. So yeah, 3. Now for story. Interesting. Interesting little mix here. It starts very strong. Starts very strong, actually. Really engages you, gets you in. You're wondering what is going on here. You want to know. You're really actually hungry for more details, actually, once the movie starts. And then they drag it out for the introduction to everyone. So it slows down at that point. Everything then takes its time to introduce the characters, to build up the story, to outline the mission, and to travel around and get to the first mission. It really does slow down at that point. It's unusual. So strong opening, slow start. I'd say moderate middle. Moderate middle. And then with a decent pickup for speed at the end, actually to the point where it almost feels rushed. Like they've gone for a last sprint to the finish line. Interesting. I mean, it wastes no time diving deep into the theatrical and the mysterious and the fantastical nature of this little world they've built here. It does go down the fairly traditional team building storyline path, so to speak. We bring the group together, they go off on their first mission, it's okay, and there's of course a traitor or two revealed, and then there's a chase of that said traitor, and the team recovers and has a bonding experience and gets to work well together and actually respect each other, and everyone does a good job. So it's on the whole a very standard comic book or any other movie, to be honest, sort of plotline when it comes to a specialist group of elite something something doing a mission to stop so and so. It's almost got that old World War II commando movie feel. I throw a couple of red herrings in. You're not entirely sure if you buy into them when they do either, because it's a little obvious. I mean, a bit too easy to make the invisible guy the spy, right? That's a little too easy. It does its mid-movie bad guy monologue exposition reveal quite cleverly, actually. It's one of my favorites, I suppose. It is a little heavy-handed. It really is in a lot of parts of this story. It's like, have some story, and now we're on to the next bit. Have some more story. It's like, all right, calm down. It generally works, although it brings up some questions, some weird choices in here. In one scene where they're attacking Venice, or they're trying to defend Venice from the bad guys trying to sink Venice, and one of the main villains is running around in the street looking very concerned about buildings falling on him, like everyone else is. Why him? They could have had any of his henchmen running around. Like, he had several henchmen that could have been doing the runaround, and they could have backtracked it that way. But they had him look panicky and run away and look upset. It's like, dude, it was your plan. It was your plan. This is your idea. Why are you walking around looking stunned? And why are you running around in trouble because of your own idea? I mean, it didn't make any sense. And it all wraps up at the end. I mean, it's very comic book in that respect. The good guys win and the bad guys lose. Now, there's a couple of characters that bow out during this final fight. One I wasn't expecting to die off. The other one, kind of saw it coming. And another one you're very happy to see cop it. But again, the story takes you in some interesting places for this third act. It's a third act like nearly any other movie like this, but it's at least pretty well done. So, score for story. The low points do pull it down, but then the high points and the strength of the rest of it lift it back up to a 3 again. So yeah, story's a 3. Look and feel. Okay. Alright, so this movie looks very nice. The sets look good, the costumes look great. There's a lot of times where this movie just looks fantastic and you're loving what you're seeing. Because you'll find yourself in this excellent library or wonderful looking office or beautiful looking home or laboratory or something. It's like someone who understands and loves their architecture has designed this movie. You want to see more, you want to spend more time there. And on board the Nautilus. Oh, the Nautilus design is so good. You'd swear you're in a palace for some of these sets, not on a submarine. This isn't just a vehicle, this is a home. This is a grand statement. And it really felt like that. Until the CGI takes over every now and then. Now, it's 2003, CGI is getting much better at this stage, and the CGI in this is pretty good-ish. Until they rely on it solely for some scenes. especially underwater. Not all the time. There are a couple of shots where it looks pretty good underwater, but generally speaking, the moment they're underwater, it looks particularly fake. At the same time, pretty good fake. I mean, while you can tell it's not real, you're going, yeah, it's not bad. That's pretty well done. That's a nice fake looking submarine. It's a funny thing. When CGI is usually bad, it really just throws the whole movie out. But this one, not so much. You're just going, oh yeah, it's fake. Next scene, oh yeah, that's fake too. There it is, there it is, there it is. You can call it, you can pick it out. The background's fake, the foreground's real. Oh, that bit of foreground's fake, but the background's real. Oh, look at that. That guy's fake, that guy's real, that guy's real. Oh, the gang tree and those people on it are fake. Okay, the long shot's fakes, blending in or matte painting perhaps. Or, you can pick it, you can call it each time. And yet, that didn't wreck the movie for me, and I'm not sure why. I'm really not sure. I mean, I've got a cold and I'm on cold meds. Maybe that's just making me mellow and just chill out and accept things. I don't know. I mean, Nemo's got one of my favorite looking cars, completely ridiculous looking car. It's right up there with the Red Skull's car, It's just a nice looking car. And that was awesome. Also, the old school high tech look. Very clever. It looks like prototypes of World War One, World War Two vehicles and designs. So they're running around with things that haven't yet been invented, and it looks it. And that was very, very nicely done as well. The color palette was interesting. You didn't get a lot of bright colors in this, unless it was on the Nautilus, which was just whites and blues and silvers. But most of the movie's dull colors, grays and browns, dark reds, dark shades of all these things. That was nice. Audio effects are great. In fact, audio effects are quite often very, very good. You can't really remember the music much, but then again, the music was also, when you did notice it, fitting in very nicely. It didn't pull you out. It wasn't The Saint. I'll forever be referencing that movie as a bad example of musical use. Lastly, a lot of the choreograph worked really well. A lot of that looked quite good. The sword play, the gunfighting, the action, the runaround, where it was shot was very nicely done. So none of the action set pieces let you down, which is also quite important. Although their grasp of physics at times was shocking. You can't jump out of a car that's moving that fast. But hey, whatever. Move along. They got a vampire in this movie. Reality stopped right at the beginning. Look and feel. So, the score for this one. If you're basing it just on the CGI and the general effects, you're looking at about 2.5. At the same time, the practical side, the physical stuff, all that is spectacular. It looks so nice. So that lifts it right back up again. So, yeah, I'd say this is going to end up on a 3 as well. Script and dialogue. Okay, so on the whole, the script for this movie and all the chatter and dialogue and carry on, pretty good stuff. Even the silliest stuff is presented with complete sincerity and some very nice acting. They really hand out a lot of exposition in this movie, and it comes at you thick and fast. But it's at least interesting. You're not bored with it. And it's usually presented in an interesting or clever manner, or at least by a very interesting or clever character. Unfortunately, not everyone has got equal screen time, or at least equal introduction time. They lean into Quatermain's intro a lot. It takes forever to get this guy on board. But then they go and rush Mina, who personally is much more interesting than anyone else in this movie. Dorian Gray's kind of cool. He gets a fair bit of intro. They show you all about him, but again, not as much as Quatermain. Quatermain gets the lion's share of the intro, and I don't know if it was necessary. Skinner, Nemo, and Mina are almost an afterthought. And Tom Sawyer turns up and then he takes all the limelight anyway. Not sure if I'm happy with that either. Yeah, alright, they did it for the movie. You know kind of why they did it. It's one of those formulas. But I could have done with more of the vampire, to be honest. She's much more interesting. Mind you, writing Dorian Gray as they did made him a very compelling villain. You enjoyed his time on screen. You enjoyed his slimy, sinister nature. It was fun to watch him. It was fun to dislike him, which, is important. In fact, he was much more enjoyable villain than the main villain. The main villain was so very stereotypical that he was almost ignorable entirely. They dumped all of the charisma into Dorian Gray. One thing I did really enjoy about the script is how they focused on the tension and distrust amongst the team. How none of them really trusted each other or really understood each other or even wanted to understand each other for that matter. They just kept separate for quite a while until the big disaster in the middle of the movie, and they're forced to bond together and get along as a team. Yay, team! But up until then, they weren't friends. They were barely even going to work together. I think we're also missing about 20 minutes of movie here somewhere. Because every now and then they'll say things like, dinner is served, we'll see you downstairs. And you're expecting a dinner scene. You never get it. And then you'll have a shot where Quatermain and Nemo are talking about the blueprints of Venice. Then they cut away some other stuff that's happening. That feels like a day or two that's happened. Then they come back to that same conversation. Now, normally when you bookend a bunch of scenes with a conversation that starts and finishes, it's all meant to look like a montage of everyone getting along or something. Now, this just seemed to be two ends of a conversation stuck together kind of randomly in there. Didn't flow so well. They do go out of their way to give every character their hero moment, doing their right thing for the right reason and save the team or save the day or help out selflessly. That was really good. That was really nice to see happen. And the characters were kept consistent. I'll give them that as well. It's just, I don't know. Having watched it twice now, you just notice there's some lumps and some bumps and there's just some missing parts. Oh, nearly forgot. All the names they drop in the first act. They just bombing you with all these different literary references. Phileas Fogg, Jack the Ripper, you got Van Helsing in there, you got the whole Phantom of the Opera thing, Dracula, James Bond, and then everyone else scattered amongst all these heroes' origin stories. It was unrelenting. It was very cool, actually. A little much at times, but still really cool. Script and dialogue. Well, like every other score in this movie so far, it's going to sit on a 3. All its shortcomings are generally picked up and carried to the end by all the really good parts of the movie. Meaning despite its failures, it still manages to be good. Fun factor. So, okay, here's the thing. It's generally good across the board. But at the end of the day, when I finished watching this movie, I wasn't exactly super invested or sold in it all. Sure, I'd like to see a sequel. I mean, that'd be cool, watching a sequel, see where they go next. But if someone said, hey man, you want to watch a movie? This one isn't really on my list of instant go-tos. Kept thinking, gee, I wish they'd done more on this. Gee, I wish they'd done more on that. I wasn't exactly immersed in this movie. So, despite everything else being good, and 3s, I'm going to be giving Fun Factor a 2.75. It was still fun, but it really didn't hold me for the whole movie. I'm not entirely sure why either. Final score. Add them all up, we get a 14.75. Just below good. And if I was being quite honest, it was probably going to get a much lower score, except the good parts of this movie really are quite good and do lift the overall experience. Would I recommend it? I don't know. Maybe. It won't be terribly disappointing if you see it by accident or just happens to be on TV, but you're not really missing a whole lot if you don't see it. And yet, I'd still love to see a sequel. Can't figure that out. Well, anyway, that's my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Have you seen it? Did you enjoy it? Do you think I was wrong? Do you think I was right? As always, like, subscribe, and share my review around. And most of all, I hope you're having a very good week and that you find some time to go watch a movie.